This is Rick. Hello and welcome to Champion Individual Rights, where I always focus on the importance of the recognition of individual rights, with the understanding that every individual should have a right to their own life, privacy, and possessions, regardless of their ethnicity or the geography upon which they preside. Today, we live in a world where U.S. politicians are behaving as if individual rights don't even exist. What can we do to turn this situation around? We have to begin by digesting reality in a moral context. This is a model of the formula that has been used to control the human race for thousands of years. It is while you are at a young, vulnerable age, before you have developed the mature ability to distinguish between that which is true from that which is false, when the force of government moves in and begins programming you with many ill-conceived perceptions. This real matrix takes place within synthesis, the forming process of understanding. It consists of a contaminated thought process filled with contradictions, an illusionary world void of moral cognition where words often have no intrinsic meaning, leading to a state of mind where reality is not deciphered in a moral context. Today's focus is going to be on U.S. politicians are fighting a war against terrorism hoax. Recently released WikiLeaks emails from 2014 show that Hillary Clinton knew that her allies, Qatar and Saudi Arabia, were funding and arming ISIS. Now, what's wrong with giving money and weapons to terrorist organizations such as ISIS, of which is accountable for the murder of over 300,000 people in Iraq and Syria alone? Anyone that is funding and arming ISIS is responsible for the crimes against humanity that they have committed. Have Americans forgotten that U.S. politicians supposedly stole all of your privacy so that they could protect you from terrorists? In regards to your privacy, if an individual were to place a device on you without your consent and listen and or record everything that you said, if found guilty of doing so in a court of law, that person could be convicted of stalking. If an individual steals all of your information, it is possible that they could even blackmail you or release data in an attempt to destroy your name. First, the government denied that they were tracking and recording everyone's information for many years via microphones being placed in many of our electronic devices. Welcome to the imaginary world filled with contradictions. A lie is a contradiction to the facts of reality. Your masters get away with lying to you, not your public servants. Of course, when they admitted up to it, they went right to the good goal fallacy as usual. It is all in the name of protecting your security, in the name of protecting us from terrorism. By funding and arming them, it proves that the war on terror is just one big hoax. When a large group of lying politicians steal everyone's personal information for many years without their knowledge, it gives them a tremendous power over people, just like the power an individual stalker could acquire over his victims. In regards to U.S. politicians stealing all of our privacy, this includes judges, attorneys, and fellow politicians such as congressmen. It is no wonder that they are allowed to lie about everything under the sun and get away with it. If someone speaks out, all they have to do is pull out all of their private information and look for something to hang them with. In mid-November of 2015, Vladimir Putin released information proving that ISIS was being funded by 40 different countries, including G20 members. Now, I wonder why this very crucial information was basically ignored by the mainstream media. Because it is proof that the so-called war on terror is a complete hoax. All of the political leaders around the world that are funding and arming ISIS are responsible for the more than 300,000 people that ISIS has murdered in the country of Iraq and Syria alone. It was reported on October 2nd, 2016, from the Ron Paul Institute that the Pentagon paid a PR firm $540 million to make fake terrorist videos. These fake videos have been used as a form of mind control, used in order to deceive the American people into supporting wars that are fought over imaginary perceptions. The Latin translation for government is mind control. The U.S. politicians control the mass media and the institutions of which educate because they want to control the way you think about things. In a recently released WikiLeaks email regarding Hillary Clinton, it lists Hillary's payroll for the mainstream news reporters. These reporters are being paid to deceive you into believing that U.S. politicians are fighting a war against terrorism. These reporters have been informing the general public all along that Iraq has been liberated, when in reality, Iraq has been devastated. Welcome once again to the imaginary world where words have no intrinsic meaning. U.S. politicians lied about why they invaded Iraq and terrorized the Iraqi people by the millions, robbing, raping, murdering, and torturing them, while at the same time claiming they were fighting a war against terrorism. The deliberate killing of a large group of people of a different ethnicity or of a particular nation is the definition of genocide, not liberation. Recently, Saudi Arabia has admitted that they created ISIS along with the CIA. New information via the 28 classified pages that were released also showed that U.S. politicians covered up the fact that Saudi Arabia had ties to 911. Quote, the crime of betraying one's country, unquote, is the definition of treason. They went on to falsely blame Iraq for having ties to bin Laden and 911 and proceeded to dehumanize the Iraqi people to the point where they could even lie about why they were sending them to their deaths and destroying their cities, raping and torturing them while they were at it. This all while the State Department claims that one of their main goals is to, quote, promote for human rights around the world, unquote. In reality, when you lie about why you are robbing, raping, murdering, and torturing people by the millions, you are dehumanizing them, the exact opposite of promoting for the recognition of humanitarian rights. It is time to start fighting and promoting for the rights of the people of the world. There is no reason to continue following in the errant footsteps of our forefathers. It must be recognized that the moral law applies to all rational creatures necessarily, to all of the human race, and that would just happen to include the political leaders of the world. It is only through our moral cognition that mankind can achieve its ultimatum, world peace through the recognition of individual rights on a global basis, with the understanding that every individual should have a right to their own life, privacy, and possessions, regardless of their ethnicity or the geography upon which they preside. This just happens to be the exact opposite position of the morally bankrupt New World Order nonsense that is devastating our planet today. With the threat of nuclear war in the air, now is the time for a peaceful revolution of thought.